Okay. A couple of announcements. Please sign up for our upcoming November retreat, November 3rd through 5th, 2023. I hope you can join. And it's always a wonderful opportunity, retreats, to make a big step on the path. So I hope you can come to that. Also, I have a new Kundalini course through the When Lightning Strikes community. It's offered at kundalini101.com. It's an educational course if you're new to Kundalini, if you're new to the teachings. And yeah, it's hosted on a platform, and there's two ways you can join. One is just self-study, and then two is self-study plus a group, like a live group with me. And that will be happening on Mondays in November. Okay. All right. Well, let's start with the teaching for today. The teaching for today is going to be about cutting cords. This is something I was actually just meeting with Cynthia about. And, cutting cords is an interesting thing because, it tends to be in like that healing arts realm of spirituality. But if we look at Kundalini, is Kundalini wants our body, wants our psyche, wants us to be basically an empty conduit for grace to flow. Now, the big problem with being human is we are so bogged down with all types of attachments. And so these attachments, they just fill our nervous system, they fill our psyche, they fill like all of our spiritual sense of self with all these energies from the outside. And so let's just give some examples of some attachments that we have. Like we all have, tremendous cords and attachments to our ancestors. This makes up our entire past. It makes up our biology, and, it deeply influences our psyche. Now, again, if we look at like what any great saint or sage has done on the spiritual path, they spent a lot of time alone in silence, emptying themselves out, freeing themselves from the past. Now, one of the ways we free ourselves from the past is, in a sense, I like to imagine just like grabbing these cords and casting them out, just like unhooking ourselves from all these energies. It's very similar to, like most of us have probably seen The Matrix, where they plug that thing like right into the back of the skull of Neo or whoever it is. It's like that's what cords are like. There's cords that are plugged into each of our 7 chakra centers. And so, like, for example, your mother, let's have some fun here. She's probably plugged into your heart. She's probably plugged into your throat chakra. She's plugged into your mind. She's plugged into your power centers in the belly. She's plugged into, your root and your second chakra center, and it's not like it's like her is choosing to plug into you, but just as human beings, we use this psychological term of being enmeshed. Like when you're in a family, we tend to all be enmeshed with each other. And so like when we go back home for the holidays, like you might fly home as an adult, and as soon as you walk into that house, you might resort to your 10-year-old self, your teenage self. Everything your mother says or your father says is offensive to you. And it's just like, all this energy is being stirred up. That's because we have all these cords tied into our family. And so like another place we have cords that are tied. So there's a family, there's the ancestors. Those are the biggest ones. We have it plugged into our culture, our nationality, and those, in a sense, are actually really beginning to dissolve right now in the world as everyone begins to wake up collectively and see, oh, we are a part of a human race. We're not just, a nationality. There's something greater, a greater sense of connectivity. And so sometimes we have to unplug, from our nationality and just ask ourselves, like, do I want to be a part of the latest war, the latest bombings, the latest whatever it is. Like, is that my truth? Is that my truth? So another place that we're plugged into is a lot of us are plugged into our job, to our career. And there's like a whole cultural dynamic. I can remember just for a very short moment in my life, I can remember that I took a job as more like an internship, and I ended up, working with different corporations. And each of them kept telling me about their corporate culture and their corporate, like their dress code and the rules and the dynamics and like the cultural tone that was set by the boss or the CEO or whatever it is. And all of this were these cords that were plugged into people's chakra centers. And basically, in a sense, it was like these agreed upon contracts where they chose to act a certain way, dress a certain way, conform to certain things. And whenever we do this, what we're doing is we're subtly giving our power away. And what Kundalini, and of course, we do this with family, we do this in relationship. When we have these cords, we get into these power dynamics, or we give power away, or we flex our power in a way that's not healthy, not true, not clear. And what Kundalini, what God is wanting for us, again, is for us to be empty of other people's attachments, other people's energies, other people's pulls. So like if you're a parent, you have children, you have all these cords that just plug into your child, where you're constantly concerned. How are they doing? How are you feeling? What's your temperature? Oh my God, are you okay? Did you get your feelings hurt? And again, from one perspective, like this is just human psychology and this is a good thing. From another perspective, it keeps us deeply enslaved and enmeshed with each other. And one of the giant movements of spiritual awakening is first to come forward and to cut all the cords so that we can be empty. And from a place of emptiness, we have clarity. And from a place of clarity, we can consciously choose to step forward in our life as a manifestation of truth, divine will, of divine power, of divine love, divine compassion. Or we can choose, like what many people are doing right now, to have some type of cord connected to them. Like a lot of the Israelis have a cord connected to the Jewish people. A lot of the Palestinians, of course, have their cords connected to the Muslim people. And it's like, I only care about Muslims, or I only care about Jews. And we do this crazy thing where instead of standing in our truth and in our power, we allow these cords to dictate, to tell us what the truth is. And of course, it's not the truth. These are lower forms of truth, tribal truths. And sometimes, we just have to dance that dance out. We have to support our tribe, and that's well and good. But at some point here on planet Earth, we have to figure out how to live in alignment with truth. To live in alignment with truth, to live in alignment with love. And so this is a great invitation here with Kundalini, is to look, where am I attached? Where am I connected to? And did I choose any of this? And so from a point of consciousness, we look and we say, is this my truth? Is this my highest truth? Is this my highest truth? That as an American, I hate all the Russians. Like, is that my highest truth? Of course it's not. Of course it's not. Of course it's not. As a Russian, do I hate all the Ukrainians? Of course not. Like, of course that can't be the highest truth. And so we're going to spend a little time today just feeling into our body and investigating where we have these attachments, We're shining the conscious light of awareness on our body, on our subtle energetic body, and just seeing, what am I plugged into? Like sometimes we choose to plug into something. We say, I am a Democrat and I believe in the Democratic Party. And listen, if that's your highest truth, that's beautiful. But sometimes we're just born into a family of Democrats, and that plug was just inserted into our psyche, and we didn't even know it. We didn't even know it. I had this incredibly funny experience when I was a kid. I think I was in high school, and we did this thing where we were doing like is a class on the U.S. government, and we had to like take a little test and align with a political party, and then basically the teacher said, okay, you are very similar to this congressperson or that congressperson. And so the teacher assigned me, to say some congressperson at that time. I don't know who it was. The one who's in the news right now is Jim Jones. So let's just say they assigned me Jim Jones. And, when it was time for me to vote, I kept changing my mind. I didn't vote along with my party lines. And the teacher was scratching their head, and like like I think like somehow I was put in the Republican category, and then I would vote, real similar to a Democrat. And then there would be times when I'd vote similar to a Republican, and I kept going back and forth. And the different parties in the classroom and the teacher, they were all getting upset with me. And, I was saying, look, like if you're wanting me to vote, I'm going to vote in alignment, in accordance to what I think is true. Not what you're telling me, not what you're telling me, not what you're telling me. I'm going to vote in alignment with what I think is true. And no one could figure me out. They couldn't put me in a box. It was very frustrating to the tribes in the room. And this is what it's like when we step on the path of Kundalini, or when Kundalini comes and gets us, is it really shakes all of our beliefs out of us. And it invites you to look into your heart. And when you look truly into your heart is the voice of God, is the intelligence of the universe. It's not based on your human conditioning. Like when you truly look into your heart, not your conditioned heart, not your emotional heart, not your Jewish heart or your Muslim heart or your Christian heart or yogic heart. We look into the depth of our heart. It's a different type of thing that arises, and that's the invitation of Kundalini, is for you to come into God's truth, and for God's truth to live through you, to manifest through you here on planet Earth. Okay, so let's all close our eyes. And what I want us to focus on here is I just want you just to imagine just feeling into the central channel in the front and in the back. You feel into the central channel in the front and in the back. These are where the cords plug into us. And so when you just think of your mother and your father, so we're two parents. And I just want you to see if you can energetically, intuitively scan your body and just notice where mom, where dad are plugged into us. And I want you to see if those cords, like as you feel into them, do they feel like really light, like uplifting and supportive? Or in any way, do they feel like heavy and dense, or like chains? Do they feel like there's like some stickiness or some gooiness or some, I'm going to use it kind of a sick visualization, like they feel like they're like covered in like mucus and just like dark, dank energies. Till as you feel into the central channel, and we're just intuitively scanning to see, how's my mother, how's my father plugged into me? And so if there's chords that are here that are kind of like really lighthearted chords and they're uplifting you, beautiful, we can keep those there. That's wonderful. But if they're heavy and if they're dense, sometimes, like, well, almost always, these chords come with a projection. Like sometimes our mother wants us to be different than how we are. Maybe our father wants us to be different than how we are. And that chord comes into us with a heaviness, with a weight. Maybe it's coming with an expectation or pulling on us. And if that's the case, you can cut that cord. You can cut it. You can just imagine that you have like a big axe made of light. And you swing that axe the way Thor swings his hammer. You swing that axe and you cut the cord. You say, no, like I don't want mom or dad's ideas in me. I don't want their politics in me. I don't want their expectations in me. And you can cut those cords. And if you feel into your ancestors, so the extended family, probably throw our brothers and sisters in there to see if there's any cords from our ancestors and our brothers and sisters. And again, if they uplift you, if they give you a sense of strength, sense of love, gives you a healthy sense of identification, like that your people are good and noble and true, beautiful, let's keep that. But if there's any darkness in there, if there's any heaviness in there, if there's any intense sense of bigotry or ignorance, heaviness, or sometimes there's just like old ideas in there. Like within my ancestors, a tremendous amount of poverty with my ancestors. I realized, I don't want to carry this poverty consciousness forward. So I cut that cord. And so I just want you to feel into your ancestors. And again, getting out that holy axe, swinging it, and just cutting any cords that aren't the truth between you and your past. Between you and your past. And taking a deep breath and just feeling into the body and just noticing as we cut some cords with mother, father, sister, brother, and the ancestors. You might feel like one of those fish that was caught in a net, and then the net was cut. You're beginning to swirl out of that net. You're beginning to swim freely. There's not that denseness around you. And so I want you to feel, to see if there's any cords from the collective consciousness that are plugged into you, just like the whole collective consciousness. So within our collective consciousness are these big drives. Like you must create a family. You must fight for your survival. You have to be rich and successful, whatever the collective consciousness drives are. We have to be suspicious of people we don't know. We have to fear foreigners. Like this type of thinking is in the collective consciousness. All this tribalism, and just see if you can find any tribalism, conscious or unconscious, plugged into your front, any of the 7 chakras in the front, or plugged into the back. So breathing, feeling, opening. And just gently asking, like, do I want to be plugged into the collective this deeply and this fully? Did I ask for any of this? If the answer is no, you can cast it out. You can cast it out. And so again, getting out that axe made of light, cutting any cords between you and the collective. And this whole egoic psychology of me versus them. Like, is that your truth? Or is your truth the truth of unconditional love? Is your truth the truth of oneness? So cutting any cords that don't support your highest truth. Very good. Very good. And so now we're just going to see if there's any other stuff floating around with your job, any cords from your job or your career. If there's any cords from your education, like your educational institutions, like your high school, college, or university you went to. If you were in the military, if there's any cords to that. If there's any cords here that are weighing you down that are not the truth. So one of the ways we can look at this is the flags we wave. The flags we wave. Sometimes it's the flags we were born with. Anywhere where there's a flag, there tends to be lots of cords. Again, from a place of consciousness, we're just asking, is this my truth? Is this my highest truth? Is there anything here I need to cut out? The workplace, career, from education or educational institutions, from our neighborhood, our family, from our ancestors. Now I'm going to invite you to look throughout your body and see if you have any cords to your trauma. Sometimes we've been traumatized and we develop an identity around being traumatized. And we can ask ourselves, like if we had an eating disorder, if we were assaulted or abused, if we were an addict of any sort, are we a part of the head injury survivors group or any of that kind of thing? And do I have any cords attached there? I'm a victim of Kundalini, like whatever it is. I want you just to look and see. Are there any cords there? Are there any attachments there that are unconscious, that are untrue? Is there anything you want to let go of? Like sometimes when we've been deeply traumatized, we just unconsciously take on the role of being a victim. And can we cut those cords if it's no longer our truth? Again, so just getting out. Got axe made of light. You can have a sword made of light. And just cutting those cords in the front and in the back. Beautiful. And so let us take a deep breath. Now we're just going to quickly scan through the chakra centers. I just want you to feel into the root chakra. I just want you to feel around energetically. Is there anything, any energy, like energy vampires sucking your energy and getting out that sword of light, just cutting the cords in the front and then the back of the root chakra. Say no more, no more. So you feel into the hara, just noticing in the front of the hara, behind the hara. Is there anything here I want to cut? Any stuff like old relationships, old lovers, old heartaches, as we're just plugged into them. Plugged into an old lover. We see her picture or their picture on the internet. And there's that old ache. That's a cord just going from us to them. Can we cut that cord and free ourselves from the past? Old sexual trauma tends to be a big thing. These first and second chakra centers. So just cutting the cords there. And I'm letting go of that old trauma from the past. I'm stepping fully into my light. Stepping fully into my light. Allowing myself to live in the present moment, the here and now, freed from the past. And you feel into the third chakra center. This one often has to do with our personal power. Sometimes when our power was bullied, or when we were bullied, when we were dominated, when we gave our power away, when we prostituted ourselves in one form or another, sold ourselves short, sold our soul, whatever it was. Just cutting any cords and getting our power back, taking our power back. So getting out that sword, cutting any cords from the past, the front or the back of the third chakra center. And I take my power back. I choose to live in my truth, not in someone else's. I will no longer allow myself to be dominated. As you feel into your heart chakra, again, there might be little places still that family members are plugged into you. People are drawing, pulling on your energy, pulling on your psyche. And again, let's just cut like in a circle all around the heart. Say no, I don't want any cords from the past plugged into me. Not in anything which is unhealthy, which doesn't have your highest interest. Maybe just even playing around, cutting the cords and just seeing what does it feel like to be free. Free. Not have anything plugged into me. From the front, the right side, behind, the left side, all around, above and below the heart. Cutting all those cords. Just noticing how more open and spacious the chest feels. And so if we feel next into the throat chakra, often the throat is a place where we give our voice away, we give our power away. We let people speak over us. We let people speak for us. And again, just getting out that sword. Cutting away all the cords, all the places of attachment where people have taken our power away. And as you feel into the space of the mind, I invite you to get that sword out again and to cut all around the mind, all the way. The media is flowing into your mind, social media, all these influences from the outside. We're unplugging from it all and just saying enough's enough. I'm allowing myself to think for myself, to experience for myself, to know for myself without letting any media influence, any platform, any bias tell me what the truth is. I'm allowing myself to be empty and clear and awake, and to see for myself what the truth is. Beautiful. As we come into the crown chakra, sometimes there's things or there's entities or beings that plug into us that aren't our truth, that aren't our highest truth. So again, we get out that sword and we cut them out. We say, I want to be plugged in only to the highest source of love, the highest source of truth, the highest source of intelligence, the highest source of peace. And so now I'm going to invite you just to feel right through the central channel. Just notice how you feel differently. Right now, I'm just feeling like a raging flow of light and heavenly fire flowing through me as we clear ourselves away. Clear all the heaviness and the denseness, the untruth away. But there's only space for the truth. Okay. Well, so beautiful. So this is something we can all kind of play with, throughout our day. If you get yourself in a sticky situation, or, I can remember when I was young on the path, and sometimes I'd go out and have a night of drinking and just be hanging out with people who weren't the highest. And the next morning I'd be like, oh, and I just kind of cut all the cords and get all that stuff off of me. And sometimes as human beings, we can be like an energetic sponge, and it can be really helpful just to clear the darkness out of us and reconnect deeply, to plug in deeply to the truth.